Let's go see if we can take this in one take. Hello, this is Steve Parker, Elite Therapy Solutions in Richardson, Texas. Today we're going to go over the shoulder. Now the shoulder is considered a joint, but it's probably the worst joint in your body because it's a flat piece of bone and a round bone and it rolls around on it. And the reason we can get our shoulder arms all the way around tells you there's not much of a joint, unlike the hip, which is a good nice socket, or the wrist, which is all screwed up because it's got so many bones, and then the ankle, which is another too many bones to deal with. But this one, you've really got to have some muscle structure with this one. And today I'm going to go over, first of all, a little bit of anatomy, and then after that we'll go over some exercises. I developed their elementary exercises for somebody that maybe can't sleep at night because their shoulder's aching. They did have a minor injury. Ideally, if you do have a minor injury, you get checked out by an orthopedic before you start your exercises. But if the shoulder aches a little bit, and you're getting a little bit old, or you're young and it's aching a little bit, you can try these exercises and see if you can get rid of it. Okay, today I'd like to look, first of all, you have external and internal rotators. And the way I explain it to patients is the internal rotators is like a horse and a carriage, horse-drawn carriage. The horses are drawing the carriage along, and they're really strong, and that's your internal rotator. So we do everything internally rotated. Now, the external rotators, that little guy sitting in that chair holding those horses from running them away with the carriage. That's the difference between your internal rotators and external rotators. Now, if that guy is really weak, or you have weak reins and they break, or you can't hold the horses, what happens? It takes off. And then the head of the humerus here, which is a big bone that goes up into your shoulder joint, it slides forward. Most shoulder dislocations come anterior, which means they come forward. I had one last weekend, 14-year-old boy on the soccer fields, and I had to reduce the shoulder on the field because it was out. Not a lot of fun for him. It was kind of interesting for me because it wasn't all the way out, but it did make a big noise when it did go back in. So we're going to look at this shoulder here. First thing and this is something I found out. This is one of our tech. This is our tech at the Elite Therapy, and she's got a little bit of winged scapula here. Now, the reason this is important for shoulder movement is the scapula should be flat against the back. It shouldn't be winged out because that means she doesn't have complete control of her shoulder blades or her scapula. And as she raises her arms, they have to rotate up at a certain angle. And if they don't rotate up because they're winged and there's not enough strength in the muscles to hold it in that angle, then it'll put extra stress on the front of the shoulder. Okay, come back around. Now, if you do have a shoulder problem, there's different ways of figuring out how to diagnose it yourself, or at least see if you need to go to a doctor. One thing that really peeves me off is after a shoulder dislocation, they put these patients in a sling. Well, swing around again. You have the spine of the scapula here, which is your shoulder blade, and the supraspinatus muscle comes off the top of it and attaches right about there. The tendon does. Well, if you dislocate your shoulder, this bone comes forward, and all this tissue back here is stretched. And what do? We put them in a sling, and what does that do for the stretched tissue? Ideally, you put them in a neutral position. So turn back around, and if you take a shoulder, and to test if it's part of the rotator cuff, the problem is a good test is just to put some back pressure on the head of the humerus. It doesn't have to be hard, but I mean she's pretty tight, so put some back pressure there, and it should relieve a lot of the pain. Even after a shoulder dislocation, they're in a lot of pain. But one of the reasons is the head of the humerus is slid forward and it's sitting there stretching all that damaged tissue. So if you put back pressure on it, it really works out well. Now, one of the things that I've been telling people lately, and this is a very expensive posture brace off Amazon. I think the last time I shot a video on the shoulder, Amazon wasn't around. So we're going to stick it in here and give you an idea of what it can do for you. And I've got it upside down. It was close. This will make it more comfortable, obviously. It's where the padding is. Where is that? Okay. Now, there's only one problem with this, and I was the poster boy for it. Is you can put back pressure on it, on the head of the humerus, but if you put too much pressure on it, you'll cut off some major arteries. So see, turn sideways. See how it puts the back pressure on the head of the humerus, and you don't want a lot. You get a lot, and then you end up with, like I had a 12-inch blood clot in my arm from a fractured clavicle, and the doctor stuck his knee in my back. After 3 days, my clavicle was like that, so he stuck my knee in my back, he straightened it, and then he put this on, and I stood like this for about 2 weeks, and my right hand became major swelling. I had a 12-inch blood clot in my arm. So just be very careful with these braces. They sell them like crazy on Amazon. It's great for your posture, but if they're too tight, you can have some major ramifications. So, and we'll go ahead and go with, does that feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not too tight, so it's comfortable, and then we're going to go through. I got my cheat sheet over here. Why do older people get frozen shoulders or impingement syndrome as they get older? Well, as we get older, unfortunately, we lose muscle tissue, and when you're young, if you have a lot of muscle tissue around your shoulders, which a lot of them, especially the bodybuilders or even the good athletes, will have, you won't have any shoulder problems, even though you may have a rotator cuff problem. And there's some simple tests for the rotator cuff, and we're going to do that next. But just remember, as you get old, it's important to do some of these exercises if you do start getting impingement syndrome, or do it before you get impingement syndrome or before you get the frozen shoulder, because you will lose muscle tissue as you get older, and then that damaged tissue will end up showing up later in life. So there's a few tests I do, and face me. Okay, arms at 45 degrees to your side, and she's going to hold them out, and I'm going to try to hold and push them in. You do this one first, because if there's a major problem with your rotator cuff, this should show up right away. Okay, hold it there, and usually you can see the weakness. And my left arm's my weak arm, and do it again. And she's right-handed. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's right-handed, and her right arm's giving way. So, what does this mean? I have a theory with shoulders. And I've been meaning to find a student to do the research on it, because I'm too lazy to do the research. I love students to do the research for me. Then we'll write an article together, and I get published. So it's always good. But if you go through life and you're right-handed, you're constantly using your right hand to do all kinds of things, there'll be micro tearing of the rotator cuff, because we'll put the shoulder in positions that will put stress on a rotator cuff. And like the worst thing, especially that moms can do, or that if you, not a guy, but if a girl leaves her purse in the back seat and she reaches over and picks up the purse, and you know all women's purses are very lightweight, so there's no weight to them. So they're picking up this 40-pound purse over the back seat, and that's a huge, exposed the head of the humerus, and it's a huge, great way of tearing your rotator cuff, at least putting some micro trauma to it. So my theory is your dominant side that you use the most would have micro tearing throughout your life, and in turn will be weak. So if you do put it under stress, where you really need the rotator cuff to really tighten up and hold the shoulder in place, then it won't be there to help. Now, why do we get impingement syndrome and frozen shoulder? Well, go ahead and take your arms over your head. Okay, go back down. Okay, she's young, she's healthy. She has a little bit of weakness in her right shoulder, but that's probably from if she played any kind of racket sports, which I know she's played tennis with her dad some, because he's a really good tennis player. And I don't know, as you age, these older people are playing pickleball, and they're probably tearing up their shoulder with that too. So it's the internal rotators putting a lot of stress on the joint. But there's ways, and after coaching softball, believe it or not, I'm big into soccer. Played basketball when I was young, but then my daughter wanted to play softball, so I coached softball. And my girls always complained about how sore their shoulder was after practice. Well, what do? How do you warm up for softball? Well, you take the ball and you start throwing it. What does that do? Well, if you're throwing a ball, your external rotators and internal rotators are not warm yet. But by throwing a ball, your internal rotators are warm a lot faster than your external rotators. So when you start throwing a ball, when your muscles are cold, a warm muscle stretches twice as far as a cold muscle. So just remember that, because when you're throwing that softball, make sure you warm up the external rotators first. I'd bring in some TheraBand, which we're going to, I don't know if we're going to show you that today. We're going to go through the elementary exercise today, and later on I'm going to go through the more functional exercises. But take the TheraBand, hold it between your hands here, and it may just be a yellow TheraBand, which is the mildest. Just get going where the muscles in the back of the shoulder get warmed up, so when you do throw it, you're not tearing the muscle every time you throw a ball. And what sports? Well, I made a whole list of sports that tear muscle, that tear the rotator cuff. Obviously baseball, softball, volleyball, even soccer on throw-ins, or if you're a goalkeeper and you're throwing the ball. Tennis, I've had a high state-ranked teenage tennis player dislocated shoulder on a serve. Racquetball, pickleball, bench press, or anything overhead. Bench press, never let your elbows go behind your body. When you go behind your body, it exposes the head of the humerus, and you're more likely to tear a rotator cuff when you push up, because the head of the humerus starts to come forward and the rotator cuff won't hold it in place. Let's see. The next test. We did the one where the elbows going in on your side and your hands going in, so she's got a little bit of weakness. And then if you didn't get any weakness there, if you really want to find weakness, you come at 45-degree angle away from the body. It's called the empty can test, and you rotate your hand down and hold it, hold it, hold it. And you feel the difference? Okay, she's right-handed. I'm right-handed. My right hand's holding her left, which is stronger than her right, which tells me her external rotators in her. That's a supraspinatus test. It's the most commonly damaged muscle in the rotator cuff. And why do we need the rotator cuff to raise our arms? I'm gonna get kind of medical here, but the acromion process, which is you've got your clavicle right here, and right at the clavicle's right there. At the end of it is the acromion process right there. To raise the arm up, the rotator cuff has to pull the arm down a little bit. Oh man, what's that crunching? The head of the humerus has to go out and around the acromion process that comes off your shoulder blade. And if the rotator cuff is weak or damaged, when it gets to a certain point, it squeezes out. Well, these two bones hit each other. And one of the symptoms of rotator cuff tear is you'll find that you'll have pain down your bicep because it's squeezing this tissue together right here at the shoulder. And by doing so, it'll fire the nerve, and you'll have pain down. And you think, oh, it's my bicep, but no, it's coming out of your shoulder. But in the meantime, you can't raise your arm up because all that it's called impingement syndrome or frozen shoulder. So you have to have a healthy rotator cuff to raise your arms over your head. Okay, so we obviously found a problem there, and that's going to be one of the exercises we do is an empty can exercise. But it's further along, more advanced. I don't mind you starting it during the elementary exercises, but now we're going to start the elementary exercise. Make sure I got everything here. On the side, empty can, brace. Okay, first thing we do is the Codmans. Okay, it's her right arm. So let's see if we can get this in the shot. I may need to go down a little bit. But she's going to be bending over and using the right arm, and it's circles. And it's just relaxed circles, bent over. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to pull the head of the humerus away from the acromion process. Always start with this exercise. And you'll find that if you ever have shoulder surgery, you'll find that the doctors, this will be one of the exercises they teach you at the PT clinic, is you start with the Codmans. And you do it one way, go back, do about 20 reps, then go back and do it the other way, just relax the arm. And then we do it the other way, and then we go across our body, just relax, and then we go front to back. Okay, so we get 20 reps of all those. So we've pulled the head of the humerus away, we've gotten the shoulder warmed up a little bit. Now, because these are elementary exercises, had a neighbor, it was last week, came to me with, says he couldn't sleep at night because his shoulder hurt him every time. And I'm looking at my camera, how come they're focusing on your face and not mine? Look, see that?
I've noticed it the whole time.
Anyway, he comes to me with a bad shoulder. You know, he had a hard time lifting it. God, this guy's in his mid-30s. Healthy guy, plays golf, plays all these things, and good athlete. So we went over this exercise program with him, and saw him a week later. Yes, I saw him yesterday in the alley and talked to him. He says, it's feeling much better. I can sleep through the night now. I mean, he's doing a lot better. And I told him, give another week, and then we'll start the dynamic exercise. Okay, the first one is, and you turn sideways, Timmy. Okay, you put your arm 90 degrees at the side, and you use your other hand and put it on the outside of your wrist here, and just put pressure on it going out, and hold for 2 seconds, and relax for 2 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds, and relax for 2 seconds. We do all these isometrically, and you do this 10 times, 2 seconds each. And we do it isometrically because, and if at any time you have pain during exercise, try to change the range of motion and see if that helps. Try to, if it's straight out, hurts, then come in just a little bit and try it. Okay? Okay, the next one, you put your hand on the inside and you do 2 seconds in, 2 seconds relax. 2 seconds in, 2 seconds relax. And once again, if it hurts, and I really don't want to roll it out because that exposes the head of the humerus, I want to keep it in here or internal. Here to internal. So if it hurts right here, then move it in a little bit and do it and see if you can do it. If any of them hurt, we don't do that exercise right now. You're not ready for it. Okay, the next one, you put your hand at the end and you push forward. 2 seconds, relax. And if it hurts, if it does hurt everywhere, ease up on the, don't push it real hard. Just push it to start to get the muscles firing, because I want to stabilize this whole joint here. So we've done that 2 seconds, 10 times, and then you grab it around the wrist, and you're going to pull backwards. When you pull backwards, I don't want the elbow to move from the side. 2 seconds back, and 2 seconds relax. 2 seconds back, and 2 seconds relax. Okay, now because the long head of the bicep goes over the top of the head of the humerus, it attaches to the labrum, which is the labrum is your cartilage that sits on the glenoid fossa of the scapula, the shoulder blade, and your head of the humerus rolls around on it. It's a terrible joint. Like I said, it's so easy to dislocate. It's amazing. If you really want to do it well, then play football and put your arms out and let somebody hit the arm, and it'll pop out. That's a great way to dislocate your shoulder. But the next one, let's do the bicep, same position, and you're just going up 2 seconds and relax too, because this goes, the bicep goes over the head of the labrum and attaches above the head of the humerus, so it has a tendency to help pull it down. And then the next one, let me go grab a pillow real fast. The latissimus dorsi is attached to the front of the shoulder, so we work. Here you go. Same position, elbow bent, and you just pull it. You're pulling down. 2 seconds on, 2 seconds relax. 2 seconds on, 2 seconds relax. There you go. 2 seconds on, 2 seconds relax. 2 seconds on, 2 seconds relax. Okay, so we've got all the motion around the shoulder, got all the muscles firing. Now, if you want to, you can start the empty can exercise. But the empty can exercise, if this is 0 and this is 90, it's halfway, 45 degrees, empty can. But start down low. Don't start up here, because the impingement will kick in and it'll kill you. But face the camera, start down low, and no, not that high. Just come out, yeah, come out a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, just right about there. Just as long as this doesn't hurt, because we're going to try to get that supraspinatus firing. If there's plenty of muscle there and the tendon's not hurt real bad, we can start building the muscle tissue right away. But if it is, and this hurts you at all, don't do it. But empty can, thumb down, just a little bit. And as you go on and it feels better and better, you can put more stress on it. But just start out slow, maybe do a week, just do maybe 10 degrees of motion, and then work your way up. Eventually, as we do the more dynamic stuff, you can start using TheraBand with it, or maybe a tomato paste can, something very minute, because it's the problem with the shoulder is the internal rotators are so strong. Because we do everything in front of us, we don't do anything behind us. If we did things behind us, lifted things and tied our shoes behind us and stuff like that, our external rotators would be much stronger, but we do everything in front. So we've really got to concentrate. And the fact that it's in behind us, did she know she had a little wing scapula? No, because it's behind her. It's like her rear end. We don't know there's a rear end even there unless somebody slaps it or you sit on it. And it's amazing. Everything behind us we ignore. But it's very important with a healthy shoulder. And let's see, what did I? Make sure I got everything here. I got everything, and the brace. If you do have problems with the shoulder, try the brace during the day. Don't wear it at night. Don't wear it to bed. But you can wear it during the day. It'll help you stand up straighter, but also it'll take the stress off your rotator cuff during the day. And if it is irritated during the day, it'll take that irritation away, and hopefully you can sleep better at night. Okay? Thank you very much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.